Is President Trump mentally fit to be president of the United States? Hey everybody, I'm Chad Hasty, host of the Chad Hasty Show. It airs weekday mornings 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 a.m. KFYO. Well, over the weekend, one of the more popular things to bring up was President Trump's mental fitness. Now, this is not new. You've actually had a lot of attacks on President Trump in the past from those in the media calling him crazy. There were stories even months ago about all of these psychologists who apparently were diagnosing Trump with some mental disorders without ever actually meeting with the President of the United States, which I think is pretty difficult to do. You're going to diagnose someone with a mental disorder and you've never met the guy. But this is all coming up once again because of the book by Michael Wolff, Fire and Fury. And there are a couple of different things that have been, I guess, said or released. Joe Scarborough, according to the New York Daily News, saying that his sources say that people are concerned inside the White House about Trump's mental state, and they say that it's getting worse. This, according to the New York Daily News, MSNBC's Joe Scarborough claims sources close to President Trump believe he's showing signs of early dementia. The morning show co-host added the Washington Post twice struck a quote about one of the people closest to Trump during the campaign, saying that he has the early stage of dementia. Scarborough alleged the 71-year-old president repeats stories and has a family history of the disease. Quote, and it's getting worse, and not a single person who works for him doesn't know about it, said Scarborough, a former Republican congressman, and if you remember, Joe Scarborough also hates President Trump. According to USA Today, their headline, Trump aides no need for a psychiatric exam. The president is, quote, as sharp as a tack. So the White House fighting back against these ideas that President Trump is not mentally fit to serve as president of the United States. Listen, I think people would have an argument about his mental fitness if Trump acted as, Jeb did during the primary and during the general election, and then all of a sudden, he bumped his head somewhere, and all of a sudden he's sending out crazy tweets. He's talking about sloppy Steve Bannon. He's talking about how large his button is on his desk regarding the nuclear button. But that's not a different Trump. Trump has remained the same since the primary, the Republican primary, through the general election, and today. Is Trump repeating the same stories as Joe Scarborough alleges? Maybe, but guess what? So do a lot of other people who don't have dementia. People like to repeat stories all the time. Trump, yeah, he's older, so he repeats stories. It happens. Guess what? People with big egos also repeat stories about how they came across as a winner in different circumstances. You may not like how the president tweets. You may not like how he acts. You may not like everything that he says, but I still don't see where exactly Trump is mentally unstable or not mentally fit to serve as president of the United States. Trump hasn't changed since the primary. And let's remember this. For those who say that, Trump was mentally disturbed during the primary, think about that for just a little bit. President Trump, Donald Trump, was able to take out and defeat arguably some of the most talented Republicans, some of the most talented or the most talented field of Republicans in decades. He was able to defeat them, and then he was able to defeat Hillary Clinton and the Clinton machine. And Hillary was, sold as the best candidate ever for president of the United States. So here's my question. How does someone who is so mentally ill and so mentally unstable defeat the best and brightest Republicans that have run for president, defeat Hillary Clinton and the Clinton machine, and then go on to, so far, have a pretty good first year as president of the United States? Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But many of the things that went wrong in the first year for the Trump White House like not getting health care redone and some other things. Not his fault, but instead were the fault of the U.S. Senate for not getting on board and not getting on the same page. Again, you may not like how Trump tweets. You may not agree with everything he says. You may not agree with how crass he can be or how unpresidential he can be. But just because you don't agree with those things doesn't mean that that President Trump is mentally unstable or mentally ill. And in my opinion, it actually does a disservice to those who are actually dealing with mental illness, whether it be for themselves or their family members or someone who is a friend who is actually having to go through dementia, Alzheimer's, or any other mental illness that may be there. It's wrong for people to just go ahead and say, oh, Trump is crazy, he's mentally ill, he's mentally unstable, just because you don't like the guy. That's not how it should work. And by the way, for psychologists who are out there, psychologists shouldn't be weighing in on this until they actually meet with the president. They can give an opinion about how, well, we think he might be acting this way because of that. But don't say that he's mentally ill when you haven't actually examined him. Trump is not mentally unstable. He's not mentally ill. He is doing a fine job as president of the United States. Just look at tax reform. A mentally ill president probably would not have been able to get a big win on tax reform. Oh, and by the way, a mentally ill person, a person with dementia, probably would not have been able to defeat a Republican field of very talented candidates and Hillary Clinton. If you believe a mentally ill person was able to defeat Hillary Clinton, what does that say about Hillary exactly? Tune in to the Chad Hasty Show weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO. Have a great day.